Good morning, it's Tess, and today's tip 142. I know, 142, I can't believe it. Today I just said I was going to talk a little bit about, since last weekend I was planning the gardening, and yesterday I was mentioning I'm looking at what spices to put in one of my 9-tier planters. The next step is, part of what I planted this past weekend was like tomatoes, peppers, strawberries, raspberries, and I thought, what are some tips and tricks? And maybe I should have looked at this before I planted them. But I thought learning a little bit kind of helps any of us who are kind of starting a garden now. And so I know I've heard a lot of people talk about tomatoes are difficult to grow. They seem to be one that my parents are really, really good at. So I guess I have some help on that. And Doc V's pretty good at it. So thank heaven I have some tips on it. But I decided to look up information on the internet and just see what they're saying about it. And tomatoes, they kind of talk about don't crowd the seedlings. And I've got all of mine in a row outside. And I have the tomato cages already set up, so at least I know I have proper spacing. But it says don't crowd your tomatoes. Make sure that they have lots of direct light. And then this was an interesting thought that I didn't know, but it says that tomatoes like movement. So it says that if they're not in an area where wind is going, that you might want to just kind of lightly touch the leaves, as you go by during the day, because they like that movement, and that kind of actually encourages growth. So maybe it's true what they say about talking to your plants and interacting with them. It did mention too that tomatoes love heat. So depending on where you're at, you want to make sure that they're going to get a lot of it. This is something, and I think this kind of connects to something Doc V said, but this is something my dad's always been big on. He always picks off a lot of the leaves higher up, and he buries the stems really low. And that's kind of even, I think, in line with what Doc V was saying too, in that he sets them on the side so the little nubs start to grow, and then they've got little root bases where he buries them deeper. So there's a lot of tips and tricks that people find to try to grow their tomatoes better. It does say that after you get the soil warm for tomatoes, that you should put a mulch over the soil after it's warm so it retains the heat a little longer. And this kind of talks about the same thing. Remove the bottom leaves, plant the stem a little bit deeper. It just gives them the hardier start and probably a stronger stem. It also talks about, as your tomato plant is growing up, you'll sometimes get little suckers in in the little intersections, and to pick those off. In the joints, as you get the little suckers growing up, it says pinch those down. That way the tomato plant will be stronger and healthier. And then it says to water regularly. And I know even in a northern state, my dad would water his tomato plants probably twice a day, morning and at night. So that was good information and something I'm going to put into play. And I had a great harvest last year. So hi, Joan. Hello, hello. So my harvest was really good last year. I changed my locations to one that's even a little bit sunnier this year. So I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen. I've got 5 tomato plants, and we know I love to play with my salsas. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And there is something therapeutic about being outside. I got to see my grandmother's peonies starting to come in yesterday. Oh, hi, Brandy. Good to see you. And that being outdoors, getting the lawn mowed, and it was just nice. It was nice to be outside after a day indoors working all day. So I'm going to do those things with my tomatoes. I'm going to make sure that they're not crowded, that they're getting lots of direct sunlight, that I'm kind of moving the leaves a little bit because they like that motion. Bury the stems. And then I'm going to look for, in the joints, any of those little suckers that pop up, and remove those extra leaves because that just puts more strain on it, and water them regularly. Now, another one that my dad said he hasn't had a lot of luck with is peppers. And this year, I didn't have a lot. I had some come in last year, but I didn't have a huge amount of success with them. So this year, I guess I went all out. I bought 5 different types. And when I was reading articles about peppers, the good thing is it says get a couple varieties. So maybe I'll have more luck this year because I only had 1 variety last year. And then it kind of talked about seeds versus seedlings. And if you go with seedlings, you got to start really early. And I'll say that's true. I started some from seedlings and purchased some because I found a tricolor that I purchased, but all of my plants are probably about this big right now. And the ones I started from seedlings, I started months ago, probably late February, early March. So it is true. You got to have a lot of head start because peppers will produce long term, but even last year I started them too late. So by the time they were starting to have peppers, it was already late in the season. They do like full sun. They do want to be protected from the weather. You want to make sure that they can properly irrigate so that they're not sitting in water, because they don't like that. You're going to have to watch for pests on peppers. And it says with peppers, rotate the location. Do not plant them in the same place every year. And it does kind of remind us that peppers have a continual harvest. So I'm kind of interested to see what happens, because like I said, I have tricolor and I have several different varieties. So that is the recommendation with peppers. Get a couple varieties. If you do seedlings, it is too late this year for seedlings because it's a continual harvest, but you don't have enough time for the plants to get big enough to take advantage of that this year. Watch the soil. To make sure it's healthy soil, because you might want to add, like they say a lot about if your grass clippings can help put nutrients in your soil, the brown leaves and stuff can put nutrients in your soil, and earthworms. You're going to want to look for all those things. But healthy soil, full sun, good drainage, and protection from the weather, and you might have some luck with a continual harvest of peppers. And a couple other things I grew, and I've mentioned strawberries before, but I looked at them a little bit more because I do have two varieties of strawberries now. I have the ever bearing, and then I have like the summer bearing. And it kind of talked about that with my ever bearing, I should pluck off the berries that are starting to pop right now, because the best that plant will do is if I discourage it from bearing too early and let it be the fall bearer, and then the other one be the early bearer. So that's kind of interesting. And the other thing I'm going to have to make sure I watch for and get together is hay. As the berries do start to come in, I'm going to want to lay hay so that the berries don't end up molding from the moisture of the dirt. And that is something you see, and there's a lot of strawberry patches where you can pick here locally, and that is true. Well, hi Denise, good to see you. And that is something that you see in strawberry patches all the time, is the hay. And I always thought it was to help those of us that are yew pickers so that we didn't have to walk on all the dirt. And I guess I should have known better. It was actually for the berries. It wasn't for us. And then I did start some raspberries, and that was kind of a thought too, because my peonies that I showed everybody yesterday, the other thing, my grandmother that I got those peonies from, she was a big person with raspberries, and she would actually have lots and lots of raspberries, and she would sell them to the local community. When I was a kid, we'd actually pick them for her. And so I'm going to try my hand at raspberries and just see what passed on down to me. And it just said, again, these like a sunny location, well drained, crop rotation, and it says water 1 to 3 times a week. So it's not like the tomato plants. I'm not going to be able to water them once or twice a day like the tomato plants. They don't want that much water. It also says be careful with fertilizers, because fertilizers can, they react stronger to it. But, and I'm going to have to set up trellises, so it's good I kind of have them planted on a wall. But it'll be interesting to see what I can pull together. I come from a family of farmers on both sides of the family. Last year I did pretty good for my first year out, and I'm very curious to see what happens this year. Because I've even been playing with little things, like if I buy romaine lettuce at the grocery store, as I get down to the little pieces in the middle, I drop it in water, and then as it starts to root a little bit, or the greenery starts growing up, I pop it into dirt, and those have been growing also, so I've been getting lettuce off of that as well. So it's kind of interesting, it's fun, it's meditative, it clears your head, it gives you a chance to be outside with nature, and it gives you a chance to, like I said, calm the heart and get yourself back connected, because we've been so cooped up for so long, and that's probably why I started last year. But it's a chance to reconnect. It's a chance to, like the neighbors with the 2 little girls, I love to talk to them and say hello to them, and it's nice that we're all getting back out. So you might want to give it a hand. You might want to try a tomato plant. Those tend to be a little bit more difficult, but mine have been doing well. So peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, onions. Doc V always talks about grab those green onions, and those will grow, and you'll never have to buy them in the store again. They're not expensive, but like anything, it's really fresh out of your own garden. So you might want to give it a try, and you might find that it helps you when you've had a bad day, and it also helps you when you want something fresh. You can go reach outside and grab it. So I'm looking forward to see what comes along, and it'll be a few new ingredients that are fresh out of my garden to add to my green smoothies each day. Have a beautiful day, everyone, and it's so nice to see you. Thank you.